Hey guys, I hope everybody's doing well. It is about 6 in the morning here, and I'm trying to film in the kitchen before everybody else wakes up, so I gotta talk quietly. Today is going to be the start of a new series on my channel that is going to be from the very beginning of learning guitar. You know, most of my videos have been intermediate to advanced, and I kind of jump around on topics that I'm into at the time that I want to talk about. But I realized for someone who finds my channel, it would be nice to have a square one. So we're going to begin with the names of the open strings, tuned to standard. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to build off of that. I think in this first lesson, we're going to cover that. We're going to cover the names of the notes on the neck. And I'll probably show you some basic chords, some basic open position triads, major chords that you can start to make some music with if you're just starting out. So requirements for this lesson are a guitar. Doesn't matter if it's an electric guitar or an acoustic guitar, an expensive guitar or a cheap guitar. All you need is a guitar with 6 strings and a guitar tuner of some kind, whether that be, my guitar has right here is an onboard tuner, and if you have an acoustic electric, that is pretty much standard these days. You know, this isn't an expensive guitar, but it's got Fishman products in it. There are also clip-on tuners. You can clip on the headstock and tune your guitar that way. Or you can very easily just download one, get a tuner app on your phone. I suggest getting one that stays with your guitar, something good and reliable, but I usually have one on my phone as well. If you have those things, let's get into it. So the names of the strings. I would get in the habit, once you know the names of the strings in standard tuning by heart, I would get in the habit of calling them 1 through 6. Because as you progress, if you get into open tunings or down tuning or alternate tunings, the notes of the names of those strings change. They change note. But 1 through 6 always stays the same. So, first off, when we're talking about guitar, this is the 6th string, and this is the 1st string. So when we say we're going down, what we mean is down in pitch. So down is this way. If we say the top of the guitar, the top of the neck, we mean the high E string, the 1st string. The bottom is the low E string, the 6th string. Okay, so that might seem backwards at first, but that's how it's talked about. So we're going to begin with the 1st string. The 1st string is tuned to E. And that's what it sounds like. The 2nd string is tuned to B. That's what it sounds like. The 3rd string is tuned to G. 4th string to D. The 5th string is A. And the 6th string is another E. It's an octave lower. We'll be getting into octaves later. If I say things you don't understand like that, don't worry about it. We're going to cover it later, and you don't need to know it right now. But the 1st string, the top string, and the bottom string are both E. And that tuning is called either E standard tuning, standard pitch, or standard tuning. It's what 90% of all songs and guitars you've ever heard are tuned to. So the names of the strings from the top to the bottom are E, B, G, D, A, E. Memorize that back and forth, so you can say them in any order. When you play the strings open, that's the notes that they're making, the sound they're making. E, A, D, G, B, E. Okay? Congratulations, you've just taken your first step into playing the guitar. The next thing we're going to talk about is what is known as the chromatic scale, or the musical alphabet, or even simpler, all the notes on the neck, all the notes that make up Western music. Okay, there are 12 of them. There are 7 natural notes, and there are 5 in-between notes, which are known either as sharps or flats. Sharps and flats are the same thing. I think why they're said that way is because it's an easy way when you're going up. If you're going from if you're going from G to A, when you're counting up, you can say sharp, G, G sharp, A. When you're going down, you say A flat, G. The word chromatic means to move 1/2 step at a time. 1 fret at a time, okay, on guitar. So that's what chromatic means. It means you're not missing any notes, you're not skipping any notes. Now, when I say a 1/2 step, or a whole step, or a tone, or a semitone, what that is referring to on the guitar, these are called frets. 1st fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 4th fret. When I say a 1/2 step, that means chromatically, that means you're moving 1 fret. Each one of those is a 1/2 step, or a semitone. If I say a whole step, or a tone, that is 2 frets. So from F to G is a whole step. From F to F sharp is a 1/2 step. And I would suggest writing all this down. Get a notebook and start writing down these terms, because the hardest thing about learning music is the lingo, like anything. Building, electricity, anything is, once you learn the lingo, you understand it. It's a language. So we're going to learn what every note on the neck of the guitar is called. And when I say that, I don't mean every single note on every single fret. I mean the 12 notes that repeat up and down this neck. Okay? So the chromatic scale, the musical alphabet, goes from A through G and then begins again. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. So we're going to begin on this open A string, the 5th string, because that's an A note, and that's the very beginning. And we're going to go 1/2 a step, chromatically, up the neck until we start over again. Okay, so play your open 5th string, your A string. That's an A note, A natural. Then place your finger on the 1st fret on that 5th string. That is an A sharp or a B flat. Since we're going up, we'll speak in sharps, okay? So A sharp, B. Now in between B and C, this is important, write this down for sure. In between B and C, there is no 1/2 step, there is no sharp or flat. So we go from A to A sharp to B and then to C. B to C. We go from C to C sharp. C sharp to D. D to D sharp. D sharp to E. And then in between E and F as well, There is no sharp or flat. You go straight from E to F. So remember that between B and C and between E and F, there is no in-between note. Okay, so A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F. Then we go to F sharp. Then we go to G. Then G sharp. And on the 12th fret, back to A. So every one of these strings, from the open string, which you can think of it this way, think of it as if there was another fret here. Same way, every string here on this fret has a note. These are all your natural notes that we talked about, the open strings. Okay? There's an invisible fret that you don't need to press because the nut is the fret. So from there to the 12th fret, the 12th fret is when everything starts over again, an octave up. So in between here is all your notes. Up here on the 12th fret, if you play all those, you get the same thing, the same notes you get when you play the open strings, only an octave higher. So E, A, D, G, B, E. All right? So we went from A to A on the 5th string. In the very beginning, now that you know that formula, you know the order, the pattern that the notes go in, you can now find any note that you want on the guitar neck as long as you know where you're starting from, because it doesn't matter if you start in the beginning or you start on C or C sharp. Anywhere you start, you can count up the same way we did from the beginning, from A. So if we do it from the 6th string, the E, we get E, and then remember there's nothing between E and F. So F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, because there's no note between B and C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and at the 12th fret, back to E. So that's a great way to start learning the names of all the notes and mapping out your fretboard in the very beginning. Start that chromatic scale and work your way up and work your way back down. Start in the middle, work your way up, work your way down. You know, once you get good enough, start to jump around. The third thing I would like to do, now I did a whole video on this on a warm-up finger exercise, and I'm going to kind of go over the simplest version of that with you right now, because something I wish I had been taught when I was starting out, or learned myself, I taught myself, but is right out of the gate beginning to work on my fingering on the fretboard. Because that's just going to pay off in dividends to be able to put your fingers where you want when you want, because that's a very difficult thing when you're starting out. Also, something else I didn't talk about is there's several ways you can play strings down here. I play completely fingerstyle. I do not know how to use a pick. I know the theory behind using a pick. I've tried a few times in my life and I don't like it. I like to be able to feel the strings, and I feel more versatile being able to use my fingers. So however you're feeling comfortable or you want to learn, if you want to be a fingerstyle player, we'll quickly talk about that, but there will be a video in this series on that. For now, you can either use just your thumb. You can check out Wes Montgomery, one of the greatest jazz guitarists of all time. He did everything with his thumb. He's the only person in history to do that. So I wouldn't recommend it, just trying to completely play guitar with your thumb. But for now, just picking out notes or doing some light strumming that we're going to do, you can do that. Another way to play finger style is using just these two fingers. Almost all the great blues players, Reverend Gary Davis, Mance Lipscomb, Lightning Hopkins, Son House, they all played with just these two fingers. You use your thumb for strumming down and for hitting your bottom three strings, and you use your pointer finger, your index finger, for brushing up or even coming down. When I strum, I basically keep my fingers like I'm holding a pick. Okay, and I use my fingernails. So this finger can go down or up. Your thumb can go down or up. You can pick out notes with your thumb going down, and you can pick out the melody notes with this finger. And you can do what's called brush ups this way. That's a lot of information, and then when I'm playing more, jazzier, neo soul kind of accurate type things, or an alternating bass, I add in these three fingers. You can play as many fingers as you want. Classical players, Spanish guitar players play with all five. I've never been able to get that pinky in the mix, but I feel like the 4 is plenty. You can also do 3 like a banjo player. So there's all those different ways. If you're using a pick, you want to use a pick, that's fine. There's plenty of other videos teaching you how to hold the pick, how to do alternate picking, how to strum with the pick. I would check one of those out. I'm not going to be going into that because, like I said, I don't know how to do that. But for now, if you don't have a pick, you like to feel the strings, just use what feels comfortable for you, okay? So for this fretting hand exercise, and this is going to be involved too, it's going to help build coordination between these two hands, okay? As well as accuracy and dexterity with this, your fretting hand. So what we're going to do, this isn't a musical exercise, so you're just moving chromatically, just like we just learned. You're going to start on the 6th string, the bottom string, and you're going to play from the 1st fret and use 4 fingers. Don't do it this way because that's not going to help you. You want to do it like this, okay? So you're going to play, and you can say the notes too. If you just want to work on the exercise, that's fine. But if you want to start remembering the notes, say the notes. If it takes longer, it takes longer. It's going to pay off. So you're going to play 1st fret, the F note, 2nd fret, the F sharp, 3rd fret, the G, 4th fret, the G sharp. And then you're going to work your way back down. When you get back down to the 1st finger, slide it up 1 fret, 1/2 step. Do the same thing. And the goal is not speed in the beginning. The goal is accuracy, even pressure, and clear notes. When you are fretting a note, you want to be right behind. This bar right here is the fret. We think of this whole thing as the fret, but this is the fret. When you are fretting a note, you want to be almost on top of that, right behind it. That's going to give you a clear note. If you're down here, you're going to get some ringing. You're going to get a dead note. If you're in the middle, potentially still going to get that. You want to be in the habit of being right behind that fret. Okay, I never use a metronome, but if you want to start doing that, a lot of people say that helps with their timing and keeping them on track and stuff. But the point of this is consistency. Getting clear notes, not missing notes. Okay, if you miss one, start your movement back over. You don't want to build bad habits from the beginning. So, you're doing that. When you reach the 12th fret, slide down one with your pinky, the same way you were sliding up with your pointer finger, slide down with your pinky. And work your way back down. And now every time you slide one down, you're always sliding with your rear finger. So on the way down, you're sliding with this, your pinky. On the way up, you're sliding with the pointer finger. When you go all the way up and back down the 6th string, move down to the 5th string. And that's what it should sound like. Nice and even and clear. Okay. Start doing that every day. Every time you pick up your guitar, go through all 6 strings up and down, or as long as you want. You will be blown away at how much it helps with a lot of different things. Okay, now to wrap things up, I'm going to teach you 3 chords in what is called the open position, which means the first 4 frets. That is where everybody learns the basic chord shapes. And it's called open position because it utilizes the open strings. It's also, you might have heard it called cowboy chords because of country music and things. 90% of all songs you've ever heard are written using these positions and these chord shapes. Okay? We're going to learn 3 of those. They're all going to be major chords. I'm not going to get into the theory of them or anything. That's going to come later. You're just going to learn these chords so that you can strum or start to pick a little bit if you want to and make some tunes, okay? Because that's the most exciting thing. We're going to start with an A major chord. Okay, that is played here, everything on the 2nd fret. And you're pressing the 2nd string, the 3rd string, and the 4th string. And the notes that you're hitting while doing that, if you want to remember this, it's good to start remembering this stuff, is a C sharp, an A note, and an E note. And that makes up an A major triad, an A major chord. Like I said, if you don't understand these words, don't worry about it. It's all going to come later. But I'm just saying it so that if you want to start memorizing this stuff, you can. So there's a couple ways you can fret this chord. You can use these 3 fingers and squeeze them all in that 2nd fret. Okay. Like that. You're leaving the 1st string ringing, so try not to mute that with your pinky if you're doing this way. And you're leaving the 5th and 6th strings open. All you're pressing is those 3 middle strings. And you can strum this chord from the 5th string down. Because that 5th string is also an A note, which makes it the root of this chord. Okay. That's going to be probably hard. If you're just starting out, you're going to have dead strings. It's going to hurt your fingers to press down. You got to just keep practicing at it. Hopefully the guitar you're using has decent action and you don't have to press super, super hard. I would also recommend using custom light strings or 11s. The package will say 11 through 52. That's actually what I use. Because I like a lighter gauge. I like the feel and the slacker feel of the strings. But if you're starting out, or even what's called silk and steel strings. If you look up silk and steel strings, those are great for beginners. They're very soft on the fingers. You could also just play with regular light gauge strings and build up your calluses faster. But it's going to hurt for a little while, and you're going to need to build up your calluses. So that's what guitar player fingers look like. Rock hard on the ends. So you can fret it that way, using your pinky, your ring finger, and your middle finger. If you have really little hands, you can actually use your first 3 fingers. I wouldn't recommend it because it's not a good habit to get into. Another way you can fret it if you want to start learning how to bar a little bit is using just your pointer finger and catching all 3 strings. That's a little difficult because you have to kind of arc your knuckle so that you leave the first string open. So those are the 2 ways you can fret that chord. And then playing it, you can either strum it, or you can start to work in all your fingers and do what's called arpeggiating, which we'll also get into later, and just go 1 string at a time. Okay. The second chord you're going to learn is a G major chord. And we're going to play it this way for simplicity. All you need is put your middle finger on the 3rd fret, 6th string, and your ring finger on the 3rd fret, 1st string. If you're doing that, your middle finger will naturally mute this 5th string, which is fine. That's the simplest way to play this open G chord. 2 fingers. If you want to play, and okay, so the notes you have there are G on the 6th string, then D on the 4th string, G on the 3rd string, B on the 2nd string, because those are open strings, and then G again on the 1st string, right? Because the 1st string and the 6th string are the same. So if you're just playing that 3rd fret on both strings, those are both G notes, top and bottom. To make it a fuller sounding chord, you can fret with your pointer finger, 2nd fret, 5th string. That's a B note. And that makes it a 3-finger chord, a 3-note chord. And then instead of muting the 5th string, you're playing the B note. That's a good beginner chord because it's a little bit of a stretch when you're starting out. That's probably going to be pretty hard to get that fingering. And like I said, the most important thing is even pressure and clear notes. So remember to stay right behind your fret. And don't push so hard that you're sharping the strings, but press hard enough so that you're getting clear notes. You'll hear if it sounds right. And it's a good feeling when you get those chords sounding good for the first time. Okay, so you have your A and your G. And the last chord we're going to learn today is a D major. And this one is middle finger on the 1st string, 2nd fret, 1st finger on the 3rd string, 2nd fret. So you're skipping that 2nd string and you're leaving it open. Let it ring because your ring finger is going to go on the 3rd fret on the 2nd string. Okay? That's what that looks like. So you're fretting those top 3 strings. 1st string is 2nd fret, 2nd string is 3rd fret, 3rd string is 2nd fret. And with this chord, you're playing from the 4th string down, because that 4th string is a D note, so that makes that the root of this chord. And if you play from the 5th string down, that is a note that's in the chord, but it gives it an off kind of sound in the bass. And like the other chords, you can either, this is hard to get in here, you can either strum or you can pick it. Okay, so you play your D chord, your G chord, and your A chord. back to your D chord. Okay, start over. D, G, A, back to D. And you can mix up the order, you know, start with A, G, D. Or start with your G, go to D, A, back to D. So these chords are all in the key of D major. You don't need to know about that right now, but D is always going to sound like home bass. If it doesn't sound like it's finished, it doesn't sound resolved, it's because you got to go back to D. Okay, we're going to learn all about that in probably episode 3 or 4. Alright, so let's recap. You now know the names of the open strings. You know all of the notes in the musical alphabet, sharps and naturals, and you know where to find them. If you know the open strings, you can find any note on the guitar. You're just starting from a different string and counting up, different note and counting up. You know this fingering exercise. Okay, practice that diligently and practice the notes with it if you want. And you know 3 chords, D, A, G. Alright, go over all that stuff, guys. Study it, practice it. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, if you're new to the channel, if you're just finding this, please consider subscribing, hit the bell notification button, and I'm going to try to get one of these out every day or every other day. Okay, guys, spend time on it, get it right, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks.